Namaskaram. If there is one person who has seen this narrative of Christians in India being persecuted, it should be me. I have seen this for over 6 years, as I have family both in India and in the United States who are firm followers of Christianity. I was vocal about certain concerns I had with a church that I was part of growing up and that my father is still attached to this day. And whenever I started exposing certain things about this church as an attempt to silence what I'm saying or what I'm presenting to the world, I have been slowly put in the list of being a persecutor of Christians. I was greatly perplexed with this kind of narrative that church has been manufacturing over a period of time, and I never really understood where this was originating from. Interestingly, a little more than a month ago, I happened to come across the work done by Legal Rights Protection Forum. It is a non-profit based in Hyderabad. I've been working with this organization for 3-4 years for different causes. And they have brought to light a big expose, and this happened when they logged into a Zoom call that was hosted by a group called FIACONA. It is Federation of Indian American Christian Organizations of North America. So this webinar, interestingly, was named Hate Crimes Against Christians in India.
Welcome everybody. Thank you all for joining. Let's start tonight's webinar.
And the recordings of that meeting are available now in public domain. I keenly listened to the talks of 3 people. One was Valson Abraham. He has a big church and he claimed that he has 10,000 churches in India. And he gave a glowing report of how the church has grown 600% in some cases in the past 10 years in India.
That we are in business and we have seen tremendous growth in states, in both in central and northern states where there was tremendous resistance to the gospel until a few years ago. In one state, I will not name the state, we have seen a 600% growth in the last 10 years. I'm sure most of you know that 5 years ago in 2015, India ranked number 28 in the index of world's persecuted countries. By the beginning of this year, 2020, India ranked as number 10th most dangerous country in the world for Christians. In light of all the laws and bills the government of India has already passed, my question is, how do we navigate and still fulfill the mandate?
Now that was followed by a talk by another guy called Prabhu Doss, and he seems to be the connector of all the dots because he presented himself as a lobbyist sitting in Washington DC, working with some minority groups, some lobby groups, and his agenda is to put India in the list of countries of concern on account of persecution of minorities, in this case Christians. And looking at his past, it looks like he has been on this job for over 21 years, ever since Modi took power in Gujarat as chief minister. So his agenda is long term and he's been at it for over 21 years, as we can see.
I currently serve as the chairman of the board for the Federation of Indian American Christian Organizations. It's about representing the anxieties and the interest of over 1 million Indian American Christians from across North America, including Canada. And we are based in Washington, D.C. The organization began as a response to the attacks on Christians in the Kandhamal districts of in the state of Gujarat in 1999. The organization itself was registered in 2000. It's been 20 years now.
Our main focus is to talk to the officials in Washington about the concerns of Indian American Christians, and what we think of our interest in India and how the political situation in India is developing.
As Shibu himself knows, we had one serious concern or grievance with the past two conferences hosted by the State Department. We made our displeasure known to the organizers, to the Secretary of State and others, because they refused to put India on the agenda for various political considerations. We were not happy about it, but I think that may be changing.
Now, the next person was even more interesting. His name was Shibu Thomas. Apparently, he said he's well connected politically, but as soon as Modi ji came into power, he decided to give up his promising political career to serve the cause of persecuted church in India, and that's how he started this organization called Persecution Relief.
I myself had been involved with BJP for the last more than 10, 12 years now, and I was heading the minority wing of Christians for the second largest state of India, Madhya Pradesh, and the Shivraj Singh Chauhan, the chief minister, had made a special wing for Christians, and I was made in charge of the entire Madhya Pradesh, and I had also been a standing member of the special invitee for the minorities as far as state is concerned. But when the 2015, when the Lord called me into this ministry, it was very difficult to step down from my current position as far as all these privileges which I was enjoying. But I had no option but to hear the voice of the Lord, and that's how Persecution Relief was born. It was very, very tough to step into something like this, which I had no clue about what persecution is, what is the intensity, and all this stuff was, I was not even keen to, because I'm still into business, and I was politically well connected, and all these local MLAs and MPs were great friends of mine. But when the Lord called me for this ministry, it was real tough to get out of the comfort zone. But from 2015, mid onwards, it had been like swimming against the tide.
And I connected the dots of how this was working. Shibu Thomas is a ground worker in some sense in India, who is maintaining a database of 50,000 people through 300 WhatsApp groups.
We have a massive network across India, and that's our strength. I have more than 300 WhatsApp group connecting all the 28 states and 9 union territories of India. And the Persecution Relief has 300 WhatsApp groups with more than 50,000 people in these groups. And we have state coordinators in every state. And we have district coordinators in more than 300 districts out of 734. We have district coordinators in more than 300 districts. And recently we appointed district coordinators in almost 9 states of India. And we have committed people working across the country. And that had been our strength, because we are the people mostly who break the news as far as any Christian persecution happens in India.
If there is any kind of conflict, and in that conflict, if one of the persons is a member of a church, or it could be a pastor, or it could be anybody who identifies himself as a Christian, and he picks up those stories. It could be a routine street fight. It could be some kind of a family feud. It could be some kind of a case with illicit relationships, and any one of them. Shibu Thomas picks up this story and then turns it around as a Christian being persecuted by a Hindu, and then he rolls this story around and writes this melancholic report that Christians are being persecuted in India, and that all of this was the person who is in trouble or who got hurt is being targeted simply because of his faith. And then that story is published on his website. Within hours of his story being published in his website, 30 other newsletters all over the country pick up these stories, and then the person sitting in the United States, the FIACONA chairman, Mr. Prabhu Doss, collates all of this information, and he has presented this to senators and some workers in Washington DC, so that they can present it to the group called USCRIF. It is a group that monitors religious freedom in countries across the world, and their agenda is to put India on the top tier, for tier 1. That means this can potentially attract international criticism, and their aim is to shame-face India with all their hard work for the past 4 years, as claimed by Shibu Thomas. He could report 2,224 cases of the so-called Christian persecution. LRPF has done a quick scan, and it randomly picked up 8 cases, and it investigated into what actually happened versus what was depicted by or what was projected by the persecution relief, and come to find out that none of these cases were remotely connected to Christian persecution.
I just came back from Rajasthan, where Pastor Mahesh, who was serving with Sharon Church in India, he was asked to climb a pole because he knew some electrical work and there was some problem in the village. And he was asked to climb up on the pole to fix the fuse. And when he got up to the pole, they intentionally switched on the line. And he fell down from the pole and he died.
Then one wonders, like, what is their motivation? Why are they doing this? It all connects to money, isn't it? Victimhood sells like nothing else. And the moment you say that Christians are persecuted, the wallets, the purses open and money floods in. And what do these people do with that money? Many of these people are millionaires and billionaires who have built their own business empires. Persecution relief, as we understand, is just a website and a collation of 300 plus WhatsApp groups. It is not registered as any kind of non-profit in India. So what is it? It is a fake news manufacturing factory. Interestingly, Shibu Thomas runs a non-profit called Abundant Life Society. So now here is the way it's all getting connected. Persecution relief that is registered in US, okay, it's a US non-profit, is funding Abundant Life that is registered in India, and the president of that organization is Shibu Thomas. And in addition to this, Shibu Thomas also has a parallel project going on, which he calls Persecution Relief India, which is a news propaganda machine. So this is what is happening, and all of this is motivated by just money. So just for the little money that these group of hate mongers want to generate from the sympathies of American Christians, they are manufacturing lies after lies after lies so that India can be put under a radar. So this is how this entire circle is working.